And then he said, don't wish it was easier, wish you were better. Don't wish for less problems, wish for more skills.
I can't catch a break, guys.
Yeah.
Get them the fuck away from me. I can't be around those guys.
People think, oh, well, cleaning your room, that's just a cliche. It's like, yeah, really, eh? Just go ahead and try it.
If people had any idea how powerful sleep is for healing from anything, and the fact that it's free.
My mind is absolutely bulletproof, solid as a rock.
Podcast. All right, guys, welcome to another episode of the Fighting Fit Show. Today we have got myself, Chris, and Brandon all present for a chat. Today we are going to be talking about a couple of different topics depending on the time. We're going to start with Chris's boxing. Chris was boxing over the weekend in the All-Ireland Championships, and also talking about some popular articles online at the minute in the fitness space that relate to before and after photos. Is it a good thing? Is it a bad thing? How does it affect kind of people mentally? And then also, if you time, we're going to delve a little bit into trauma. The guys are reading a lot of Gabor Mate at the minute. If anyone knows of him, he's done some really cool podcasts with the likes of Joe Rogan, Tim Ferriss, people like that. Very, very interesting character with a great perspective. So before we get into that, lads, how are you both doing?
Good, mate. I'm licking my wounds. I feel sorry for myself at the moment.
Yeah. So maybe you want to kind of kick it off, Chris. Tell people about your fight, how the whole thing went, what your kind of thoughts are after the fact.
So what happened on the day was we went down 8 a.m. I weighed in at 74.2 kilos. I had a pretty big cut. When I first started, I was sitting up at like 82 kilos and I cut down to 74. Weight in the scales, I was really determined to make sure that I made weight and I didn't miss it at all. So I resorted to Omadin and really cut my calories and up in my my NEAT. So I was going for a lot of walks, doing a lot of cardio. And we weighed in, made weight no problem, and then we sat around, got breakfast. I'd already brought all my stuff. I brought pre-workout. I brought I made a beef salad, but this time I made some potatoes with it. I had a protein shake with creatine in it. And then we were sitting around waiting. I was supposed to be fighting. The fight started at 11, and I was supposed to be fighting at around 3 o'clock because I was fighting number 24. And then loads of fighters didn't show up. When I say loads, there was when we first heard, there was 9 fights not showing up, not happening. And so then would have been moved forward. So instead of being fight 24, I would have been fight number 16. And there's roughly about 4 fights per hour. So we were like, all right, okay, so we have to about 3 o'clock. And then we were sitting around. This is about 12 o'clock. And then all of a sudden, there was a pause. There was one fight that happened already. And then there was a pause. And then there was a shuffling. And everyone was checking in and all this sort of stuff. And then all of a sudden, I was fighting in 4 fights. And I was like, oh, crap, okay. So then I had to get ready, get changed and all that jazz. Did that. Felt really, really good coming into getting ready for the ring. Did my own sort of warm-up. Had my headphones in. And then got in first round for the fight. Went really, really well. We stepped into each other. I thought I was fighting an Irish guy, and it turns out I was fighting I think he was Russian. His name was Rokas. And I thought I was fighting the Irish guy because it said when I was reading it, I must have read it wrong, but the fight was stopped in the 3rd round for the previous fight, and I thought it was to the other corner, but it wasn't. And I seen him. I looked up the other guy, and he didn't look very, very intimidating. And I seen this guy across the ring, and I was like, oh, jeez, he's a lot more bulkier than the guy I was expecting to fight. And I was like, all right, okay. And he was trying to stare me out of it, give me evil eyes. And I was just staring right back, and none of us flinched. And I was expecting the first exchange to be real, real tough. And it wasn't. It was really easy. I was in a sort of a state of disbelief after the first exchange. I was like, oh, this could be an easy night. And so then landed a couple of combinations, and then because I was relaxed, dropped my hand once I got clipped in the head, and just sort of rolled with it. And I was like, oh, okay, he's not a complete pushover, so he's still pretty strong, and it was going to be physical enough. And then I kept basically winning exchange, but I was spending loads of energy on these exchanges, and the gas tank started to drop down. And then I started feeling myself slow, and I made another mistake where the hand didn't come back as quick or something like that. There, I was like, okay, and I just started registering where my energy levels are at. And then after a good few exchanges, I feel like I did win the first round. Jim and Jerry were telling me I won the first round. and I thought I did it pretty convincingly. And then I was resting, and then I was told to just do the same again. And then I was trying to, but my arms were getting pretty heavy at this point. I still feel like I was edging it, but it was a lot more scrappy and way, way less clean. And then I think it was with 30 or 40 seconds into the end of the second round, I threw 1-2, and on the jab, where I threw the jab, he threw like a wee step in hook to the body, hit me right under the ribs, and I lost all air in my lungs. I just literally just dropped to the ground, took a knee, and then in my head, I was sitting there and I was like breathing. I was like, all right, okay, you can go back for this. Just breathe, a couple of breaths, compose yourself. All right, I could hear the count going, and I was like, okay, 7, 3, 2, up. I stood up, and the referee just waved it off, and I was like, what's going on? What's going on here? I thought I had another 2 seconds to basically get back into it, and the referee just stopped it. And Jim and Jerry were looking at me very, very disappointed, being like, what are you doing? What are you doing? And when I was asked them after, to say that I should have been up at like 3 seconds, hands up, looking at the referee, enthusiastically bouncing around, being like, look, I'm fine.
Because he probably would have counted you to 8 anyway.
Yeah.
That's what's annoying me the most. It's just like I said, it was just a lapse in judgment.
Yeah, well, I was very, very, very annoyed. But at the same time, win or learn, I will never make that mistake again, ever.
Neither will I.
Yeah, so basically, obviously, you get a 10 count in boxing. If say you take an ear, you get dropped. Chris was trying to maximize his recovery time, kind of play it cool, let it go to the 8 count. You stood up literally like you did bounce up pretty quickly on 8.
Yeah.
But at that point, the ref had already decided to waive it, because again, technically the ref can waive it at any time. The ref doesn't even have to give a count. It is up to their discretion. So the guy's all right. You need to be looking at the ref, eye contact, positive facial expressions, looking as if you want to continue. And I think the way you were doing it, you were kind of just more composed, more stoic. You were kind of just focusing on the ground, focusing on your breath, kind of focusing on yourself.
When I watched it, it looked like, and I know what happened because I was talking to you after that, but it literally just looked like you just weren't going to get back up. You know what I mean? Like whereas if you had been looking at him, even on the floor on your knee with your glove on the floor, but like, I'm ready. Hold on, give me a fucking second here. You know what I mean? It's so it's
like in my head, I was just like, all right, just be patient, just relax, breathe, get yourself together. You're ready to go to war, because he's going to in my head he was going to swarm.
That's what it is. I probably would have done the same thing.
Yeah, so that's really, and like I genuinely, like when it did come to exchange, it did come to tactical things. Like I feel like I was like winning easy enough. Like,
why do you think you feel just lack of fight experience? Like, why do you feel like you kind of started to fatigue? Did you fatigue a little bit more than you anticipated, or is that kind of where you expected to be?
Well, like I was doing the pads with Jerry a good few mornings, and that would happen. Where it'd be like a little dip, and then I'd get like a second wind. I'd feel like everything build up in my thing. It was almost, but see, once that happened, then there was like the second wind. It was like the gas tank was bigger than the first one. I don't know how to explain it, but I think on top of that, it was mainly because I put on so much muscle over the last while. Like I put on a lot, and it just demands like a lot of energy. Like like moving around all this type of stuff. I was throwing hard shots. Like I was hitting.
The question is though, it's like because you had that muscle when you're training. That's not the case. I think the issue obviously is like the cut really, like the cut and the nerves like really deplete you. I think.
Yeah.
Because I used to walk into fights tired just because of the nerves and obviously the cut. Like I always feel like I fight at like 60 or 70% of what I train at. You know what I mean? Because you're not fresh. You're not your best self because you had to fucking cut your way down there, and you're nervous and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, it's insane that though. Like in terms of nerve, like I felt really good. I felt really good going in. I felt pretty confident going in as well. I am raging about the 8 count. Like insane. I still took the body shot. It was a really, really good body shot. Fucking it landed, and there
seemed to be a couple of good backhands to the body. You kind of caught him with a couple of nice little backhands to the body. Followed up with
there was
that kind of stuff.
Was a good few. Yeah, it was a good few back and forths. There was those times where he just hit me in the elbow as well, and then I countered. There was a couple of cool combinations that I landed as well, where I threw a hook to the body, uppercut straight to the head. That like literally is like the best combination ever. Yeah. That's one of my new favorite ones. And I threw a backhand uppercut as well from range that landed real clean too. There was there was a lot of stuff that landed like a lot cleaner than I thought it would. And I'm mainly disappointed because I wanted to get more fights. I wanted to get more fights in because I got to
you've
practice.
Boxed, for me, kind of give you a perspective. Like you've only boxed like what? How many times in the last say 5 years? Like
Yeah,
what, 4 times.
Yeah. So
hopefully you can kind of get more fights coming up soon, and just kind of build upon this. But again, that's the hard part about amateur boxing. Like that's the season over, really, isn't it? Like there's not a lot of options kind of from here, or is there?
No, that's it, really. Jim said there's going to be a club show soon, so hopefully I'll get people showing up to that. But yeah, so that's the fight in a nutshell. It sucks.
Yeah. Oh well.
Fucking get your man down here. That's all I want to see.
Huh?
Yeah, good.
With the rematch.
Yeah, it'll be a good one.
Yeah, fingers crossed, could be a possible rematch for the club show. But again, the silver lining then is with the retreat. It means then you can come back, you can come to Portugal and join me on the retreat.
Yes. Woo! Yeah, can't wait. Actually, what dates were? Because I was looking at flights, and there's some really, really cheap ones. Yeah,
so I'd say if you look up if you can come to the second week, would be ideal. So I think that would be what would that be? The second one is the 27th to the 31st, I think. So that kind of week, 24th to the 30th of October, something like that. But again, I'll give you a call. We can have a look and see what the best options are. So anyone doesn't know, just to kind of give another plug, because I kind of feel like I have to pinch myself almost that it's actually really happening. Tomorrow I am flying out to Portugal to kind of get ready for our first ever reset retreat. It's called the reset retreat because we want to kind of give people the opportunity to hit that reset button, create a little bit of space for themselves, take a little bit of time out of the day-to-day, the work commitments, the family commitments, sit down, prime themselves through yoga and journaling, and get themselves in a really good state of mind to kind of set some goals for the next say 12 months to 3 years and kind of give themselves a little bit of a plan. I feel like when you have a vision for the future, you have hope, and I feel like without hope, life is harder than it needs to be. So hope for a better future. And again, it doesn't necessarily mean that you're unhappy where you are, but we should always have I feel we should always have, what's the best way to say it, a vision for a better future, or insatiable, like I can't remember, like you can be grateful for what you have, but still be hungry for more impact, more experiences. So that is the plan of attack. And again, it's in just 10 days for the first one. And Sam's coming over for the first one, and then hopefully we'll have Chris then for the second one, all going to plan.
Okay, I got a time.
Yeah, well, hopefully. Again, and the weather's going to be good, guys. It's 21 to 23 degrees on average. So yeah, exciting times ahead. So I'm going to pivot swiftly into the next topic. So that's Chris's boxing cover that we plugged for the reset retreat. And again, anyone who wants to go on another one, who hope to do some home and abroad. So if you're interested in them, maybe you missed it in this one due to work or family commitments, message me. Again, if there's demand, we are happy to meet any demand. So just text me and let me know. We can see what we can arrange. But next, we're going to talk about an article that Pete sent me. Let me see if I can share my screen here. The topic of this article is body confidence advocate Jada Cesar is calling out the toxicity of before and after fitness obsession. So this is essentially in the fitness industry, obviously everybody is obsessed with, say, before and after photos. So I'll let you guys weigh in. Maybe start with you, Brandon. What is your opinion on before and after photos? Would you consider it to be toxic, or what is your opinion?
I think I was having a think of this. Obviously, I read the article, so I am hopefully, taking her full opinion into consideration when we do talk about this. I obviously think there is a certain element that is toxic. Obviously, what is toxic, what is not toxic, but damaging. What's gonna hurt people. But the big thing is obviously, like I have a big issue with people, and I promote everybody to take before and after photos, but they're not all that matters. It's not everything. It's not, obviously a photo is not going to show all the change, and that's one of the things that she talks about in this article. Like obviously, there's so much mental change that happens in a person that the photo doesn't show. I would say one area that I disagree is, photos show they represent physical work, and so I really don't want to normalize obesity. That's something that I really am heavily against. Like I'm all for self-love, regardless of your size, and I think that anybody of any size is you're a beautiful person, 100%. But the question is, are you healthy? Now, does moving that number and looking like every fitness ideal in terms of like the industry. Is like, is that the goal for everybody? No, obviously not. Like I feel like to push one body type for absolutely everybody, you know, is not fair. But I feel like one of the big things with before and after photos, I feel like maybe gyms and stuff like that flogs them. I think there's lots of people who would make progress and then themselves be ultimately proud of the changes that they can see. And I feel like that's something massive. Obviously, if you have a look at that picture there, there's no difference at all in the photos except for she's wearing it on her face. And that's obviously a big, big thing. But I've definitely noticed that exact same change happen on people. And 9 times out of 10, it's correlated with a change in body. And so that's kind of one thing that I maybe disagree with this, is that I am really of the mindset that I don't want to see people hiding from physical changes because maybe that's really what they need, but that's not all they need. And that's the kind of point that she's making, that there's so much work that needs done under the surface in order to, you know, create that positive mental health change. Because I know myself, like I've definitely gotten leaner. I've been no happier about it. You know, I've definitely, you know, built more muscle, and it's not changed how I felt on the inside. So it's definitely not all that matters. But for some people, they do need to lose 2 or 3 stone because it's not healthy to be 2 or 3 stone overweight or be obese. And if you lose that weight and you've got a picture to represent it, of course you should share it with people and tell people how amazing you are. But I feel like maybe the industry itself has and do, you know, curate certain photos and certain images and even edit them to be somewhat unrealistic. And that can be demotivating for people watching. And, you know, there definitely is a culture of promoting unrealistic body issues because we are body images, because we can, like, I see people who look amazing and then they do another post where it's like, it's great light and it's post pump, you know, they're dehydrated, all this kind of stuff. So we really can get a photo to look completely different than what we walk around. And so what we should be doing as a gym culture is helping to find the balance. It's like, well, look, what is healthy, what is realistic, what is achievable. But I also wouldn't want to knock anybody taking progress photos as a unit of measurement of your progress, because sometimes the scales don't show the difference. Obviously, we've got inches, but is weight loss and fat loss all that there is to be gained from health and fitness? No, I don't think so. But is it a crucial part? Like physical change takes part as well when we normally change our behaviors. And in order to change our behaviors, we have to change our mind. And sometimes I find that people can get caught up in this idea of, well, all I'm changing is my attitude towards myself, and therefore take me as I am great. It's like, well, maybe there's actually deeper work to be done there. And maybe you could change your body physically, and maybe loving yourself as you are isn't really true self-love at all, because maybe there is some physical changes that you personally would like that maybe you're in denial about because there's some behaviors and attitudes that you're in denial about as well. So obviously, look, it's a very complicated subject. If you haven't read the article, she makes some fantastic points in terms of, you know, being confident and changing yourself mentally. And obviously photos aren't just all it's about. Like, in fact, I love that photo that she has up. You know, it's like, you know, there's no change physically, but there is a mental change, and that is important. But yeah, that's pretty much what I think.
To give people a little context, and again, I think as well, it is important to emphasize that I'm not sure, again, if it's knocking before and after photos specifically as say a unit of measurement or a way to measure progress. I think it's more so talking about the marketing element or the, you know, the media or the social media element of it. And, you know, and again, I definitely don't like it. And again, we've actually made a conscious move over the last, say, couple of years to not share people's before and after photos. And we do the photo with the Fine Fit mug, and we do as many kind of interviews or mini podcasts with clients as we can to kind of more so share their experience, to have that more say qualitative data, so people can understand the personal transformation that occurs. But again, the reality is, you know, before and after pictures do work extremely well as a marketing tool. That's why people use them, but they can also be very easily manipulated. And as she mentions, you know, it doesn't tell the whole story. It's not the only thing that matters. Like we recommend people, you know, keep track of things like, you know, weight, body fat, measurements, progress photos, you know, weights, you know, your deadlifts, your squats, all different kind of fitness metrics, so that people have, you know, maybe 10 or 15 different things that they're working towards trying to improve. So they're not pigeonholed, so that they only have one metric of success. And if, you know, if they don't, you know, have an amazing body transformation, that it means that, you know, the 60 sessions that they done in the gym didn't mean anything, that all the improvements they made to their nutrition doesn't mean anything, or or all the kind of positive habits or friends after the game, etc.
How do you think it could be toxic? Why like?
Me?
Yeah. Like, what do you both of you? What do you think? Like, why?
Well,
Why
I
are
think
before and after pictures toxic?
I think it gets toxic. I think it gets toxic when we start to kind of doctor photos. You know, to be honest, as I think as Brandon mentioned earlier on, I think man, like Brandon said, like, you know, I went. He said on his journey he lost weight and kind of had before and after photos. It didn't impact how he felt. And I would kind of come back and just say, yeah, that's because you're kind of one of these people who went from, you know, good shape to great shape. You know, and I feel like for somebody who goes from, you know, somebody who's obese to healthy, I feel there's a lot more value in that, and there's a lot more value in not necessarily, because it is all personal. But
sorry, that's a great point, because I literally love my progress photos. Like, and that's not to say that I love my body. I love the record of change. I love because there was a season like when I started my job, and to look at the difference now, and not to say I think that I'm anything incredible now, because I generally don't think that, but I do. Like, I am so proud of myself for how far I've come in the journey it's been, and the photos do show that. Like, they show the hours in, and whether that lady who's writing the article seems like maybe her progress photos from like 10 years ago were the same. You know, it's like, I'm sure there's been some changes there.
But in saying that as well, like my perspective on her one there is that, like, what progress, this could sound really harsh, but like, what progress did she make? Do you know what I mean? Like, now that she's had, like, if the goal was weight loss and, you know, she didn't lose any weight, it doesn't look like there was any body change or anything like that there. It's like, I think, Joe, it's like what they're trying to say is just like, don't feel bad about not making progress in that specific area.
Which again, it's all relative. Like, if that's what you set out to do and you didn't be successful, it's like, well, should we be putting that on ourselves? Should we be kind of having some level of kind of personal accountability, that we, you know, should be self-critical in some way, that, you know, we maybe didn't do all the things that we were supposed to do? Because again, as Brandon mentioned, like, I feel like it is a bit dangerous to
read it out. Let's read it out. So, how does social media play into this, both body image and mental health? With social media, people will take on their health and fitness journey and potentially only show the highlight reel of their journey. This gives the illusion of closeness to people, making reality harder to unpack. Okay, so like, that's true. That's absolutely true. Except one of the things that I see trending all the time, and I see it on people's stories all the fucking time, especially from trainers and from other people, especially female trainers, and they post all the time the unglamorous side of health and fitness, and it's them like pissed off. They're like, didn't want to train today, didn't want to do this, didn't want to do that. I still got up and did it anyway. This sucks. And one of the things that I like when I was training, like, all I was doing was posting, like, all the times I was training. There was a few times I posted selfies of me on a treadmill with a big frown on my face, just because, like, I didn't want to be there. It was hard. It was annoying, and it was like, it isn't easy. And I think showing something that you're proud of, but it's also true for Facebook, for Instagram, is that, like, it's a highlight reel of everything for everyone. Like, no one's posting pictures of them crying on bloody Instagram, and if they are, you know, like, instantly people will either be like, "Oh, are you okay?" or it'll be like, "That's cringy." Do you get me? No one wants to see the sad stuff. No one wants to see the hard stuff. No one wants to see it, and no one wants to post it as well.
Yeah.
And
there definitely is very like for Toxic, it's definitely insightful for me. Like, definitely people have posted up like those before and after photos, like the real one versus the staged one, is like, it is very eye opening, and I found that very, very helpful. But I do also, like, I absolutely hate the culture of, like, for Toxic, like, I really think it's damaging to normalize being obese and say that it's okay as you are, because I feel like people are capable of so much more, because I feel like, as I said, it's just a battle with food. And obviously, like, I want to help people and educate them as to the proper nutritional strategies and the healthy way to do it and a healthy mindset to foster it. And obviously, in order to do that, you have to have an element of self-love for your soul and self-love for your body. But that doesn't mean that over a course of a year that, and okay, to our point, is like, if a year's passed and you've built a good solid foundation, but still no physical changes happened, that's up to you and you're a professional to say, okay, well, this is what we definitely have built upon. But I mean, like, over the course of 3 to 4 years, because I think I was listening to something there, I think like 2/3 of women, like 60% of them are overweight, over 40, I think. 2/3 of women over 40 are overweight, with like 40% of that substrata been obese. And it's like, and I've had private conversations with these women, and they're all terribly sad about it. They would much rather look leaner. And that's not to say that they had this is where I agree. It's like you don't have to look quote unquote perfect in Photoshop, because actually you'll find that very rarely, even all these amazing people you see on, they don't even look like that. But you can angle and get a cute picture of yourself and look amazing, like absolutely amazing and perfect, but you can't walk around like that. And so it's about finding the balance of like, look, like, where are you happy? Like, what's your standard? And figure out what your standard is. And I would really, like, for me, set at health. Like, and being obese is not healthy. That's just the fact. And for you and your family and for your own energy levels and your own hormone levels, like, don't be unhealthy. But as I said, your body's been through a lot. As we'll go on to, if we get on to the Gamer Matthews stuff, is like you're carrying baggage that could be multi-generational. Not everybody starts at the same place. And so a credit to you if you really have a good attitude, and regardless of whether or not you can't see it on the scales or on the pictures, if you genuinely are doing the work and you genuinely are making social, spiritual, and emotional progress, fantastic. I hope and pray for everybody that if you did take a picture of it, that somewhere along the line you can start to see those changes. And that's why I'd recommend taking pictures. And no, obviously, again, if somebody takes a picture before and after and they look completely different, can inside they be worse? 1,000%. So that's how I feel about it.
Yeah, and the key thing with the progress photos is, as I said, because obviously, you know, because there's also a similar debate that happens around the scales or the sad step, as it's called. And it's like, well, geez, well, without the progress photos, like I said, we all agree, like, you know, progress photos are probably one of the best ways to measure progress in relation to body composition. You know, the old saying, like, you know, a picture tells 1,000 words. It can kind of give some insight, especially into a journey that's going to involve strength training and fitness. Like, when you're getting stronger, you're building muscle, you know, you might be losing fat. If you're a beginner, especially, you might be losing fat, gaining muscle at the same time. So again, so you're only really going to see the progress. So it's like everything else. There's nothing wrong with the progress photos. There's nothing wrong with the scales. The problem is the story you have about the scales, or the fact that you've set out the expectation that this is the only metric for success. If there's not a significant change in these progress photos, I am a failure. If the scale does not go down, I am a failure. It's the story, not these actual things. If you take it with context and nuance, you know, and the right frame of mind, it's completely different.
What story specifically? Because I think there is a specific story or a specific sort of angle on it that makes it bad. And I think that's the thing that we should be sort of trying to rectify, and not necessarily utilizing the scales as a way of measuring it. Because, like, the story is that, like, this is a direct, like, if you step in the scales, and like, again, because my weight was so front of mind, like, I can relate to it a lot. Like, your value as a person, or your value as, like, in terms of the effort that you've been putting in emotionally, is attached to the scales. And it's like, if it doesn't go in that direction, well, then therefore I'm a failure. Therefore I'm not doing enough. Therefore I'm not good enough. I'm not putting the work in and all that sort of stuff. And it's those negative feelings that basically create this whole response.
I 100% agree with you. And the key is for me and all my clients is, you need, honestly, it sounds like a cliche, you need to trust the process. And you really need to know your numbers, and you need to track the progress. And you have to understand that every effort you put in, you will not always be able to easily check if it's worked, especially in the short term. There's going to be fluctuations, and you're going to have to plant seeds repeatedly and have faith that they're going to grow. And they will, but you just, again, like, the people are just, like, constantly, like, you know, planting a seed and pulling it up and see if it's ready. And it's like, it doesn't work like that. You know what I mean? It's like, I
actually have something to say to build on that. So I was watching a TED Talk today, and it was talking about development, like not personal, like professional or skill development in sports or whatever it is. And it was on about one of the things that was a variability was a kind environment or a wicked environment. And what a kind environment is where it's the same repeatable process over and over again, kind of like chess, kind of like golf, or where it's the same thing over and over again, where there's not that many variables. But with weight loss, I think it's a wicked environment, because sometimes, you know, it's not if this then that. You know, it's not as specific as that. So if you do loads of work and you do eat really well, but then you drank like a liter of water before you step in the scales, Joe, and then you're heavier, and you weren't even aware that was a factor, and then you step on it, you don't get the positive reinforcement of the work that you've just put in. You actually get negative reinforcement for all of that effort, and then you start to like, oh, what was the point in this? What was the point in that? And that's like part of the things that's in a wicked environment. And the only way to sort of do that is to sort of take like a step back and look at it from a different perspective and try and be aware of factors that are outside of your even awareness. You have to be aware of stuff that you're not aware of, or try and become more aware of different things like that.
I have a really clickbaity video now, Pete. If you just chop and change this, people are going to shut us down. Women are an even more wicked environment. All right. And the reason being is because they're menstruation, and so if that's what you're talking about, it makes their life harder, 100%. And that's maybe why women struggle because like that 4-week cycle, like really, like I said, like if you think like you struggle on a day-to-day basis, a professional who knows what you're doing, cutting weight, eating feck all food, and you were still kind of fluctuating up and down. Imagine having a menstrual cycle on top of that as well. It's like that is extremely difficult to hold the faith over like doing anything for a month is incredibly hard. So imagine dieting for a month and literally never seeing results until 4 weeks later. That is going to be incredibly difficult.
And I do agree with that, but I would also say it's kind of one of these things where it's like, well, you I think it was from Jim Rohn somewhere. It's like, you haven't been around then very long, have you? Like, this whole thing, when the sun goes down, the sun comes up. People are like, oh, where did the sun go? It's like, don't worry, it's going to come back. And it's or if they don't know that, obviously they haven't been around very long. And what I'd be saying is then, like, at some point, people have to take a little bit of ownership in the fact that you've been tracking this. You've been on this weight loss journey for many, many years. You've been tracking your weight quite regularly for many, many years. You're fully aware of these weight fluctuations. But every time you step on the scales, you just take that experience, put it to the side, and don't actually consider it. Whereas my kind of strategy, and it's worked very well for me, is to actually collect more data, to be more aware of your natural weight cycle, to be more aware, so based on your experience, that on the 3rd week of your cycle, you're up 2 pounds, you're up 3 pounds, or whatever it might be.
Most people have never done it like that. And that's the difference. That really is the difference. I 100% agree with you. It's like, if you track your menstrual cycle for literally, like, because you've been trying to lose weight for 30 years.
Different, like over the course of maybe 2-3 months. If you track your weight, quite regularly over 2 or 3 months, you'll have all the data you need. You'll understand your natural weight cycle. And again, you'll be able to apply context then to the result that you're getting. But again, it's only a problem if your only metric for success is weight. If you're not tracking body fat, if you're not measuring inches, if you're not taking progress photos, if you don't have all these other opportunities to be successful, if you're not tracking your weights going up in the gym, if you're not tracking your consistency or how many weeks, how many days you went to the gym this week or this month, or whatever your metrics for success are, you pigeonhole yourself, and you're leaving yourself very open to failure because you don't have many opportunities to be successful except for that one particular area.
The other side thing I would say is, like, those numbers for tracking, it's like, not only are they insightful, they are the law. Like, I'm not sure if I said this on the podcast before, but recently I was reminded of a time I predicted one of the clients was pregnant, and I knew before she knew. And the reason was because I had all the numbers available. I knew exactly, and we got to a stage where it was like, I know what you're telling me is 100% genuine. So I know the calories you ate are the calories you ate. I know what you did at the weekend was what you did at the weekend. I was like, well, it literally can't be anything else. Like, you've covered all bases here. It's week 1 versus week 1, week 2 versus week 3, whatever. I was like, take a pregnancy test because you probably are pregnant. And they went home and talked about her like, you are good at your job. I was like, it's numbers. It's just numbers. It's a numbers game. And so this is it. And obviously,
sorry, Brian, just to interject for 1 second. I just think it's important what you said for anyone listening to want some practical, actionable advice. Is like that whole thing you said. Compare week 1 of the cycle to week 1 of the cycle. Compare week 2 of the cycle to week 2 of the cycle. Compare week 3 of the cycle to week 3. So don't compare this Monday to last Monday. Compare, this Monday to week 1 to week 1, week 2 to week 2, week 3 to week 3.
And if you do it like that, you'll automatically be tracking more information anyway, which will give you more perspective.
So we're kind of on the same conversation. It's like, progress photos are progress photos toxic. The sad step talking about the scales. Like, this is where something that I feel like it's the story that you tell yourself about it, because like like we have imparted that way of thinking into many of our clients, and they found that weighing in more often was more helpful. That taking more photos was more helpful, because what we want to do is we want to nurture the conversations happening for the individuals, so that way that instead of living this lifestyle where they have to bury their head in the sand from information because they just can't handle it, is like, we would much rather work with people on being able to handle and interpret information better, because I want you to be able to walk through your life and interpret information. I don't want you to stick your head in the sand and go, okay, well, things that don't hurt you, just don't deal with them. It's like, I want you to be a little more resilient at that, and fair enough, it might take a little bit longer, a little bit more coaching, but you deserve it. You fucking treat yourself.
what I want to do is I want to desensitize people to it as well, so that because you know, some people get in really bad form, they have to weigh themselves in or check in or kind of be accountable to their progress or whatever it might be. So the only way to get over fear is to voluntarily face it. You know, so just by through exposure, by just weighing yourself in regularly, you just become desensitized to it. So it's not that big of a deal over time. I said, because you've got so much information, so much.
Also, go for it, Chris. What are you going to say?
I was just going to say, like, what you said there, willful. Like, you have to willfully do it. And like grabbing someone's arm, being like, you have to weigh in, come on, weigh in, and they don't want to. It literally has like the opposite effect, the exact opposite. It's like, and it amplifies. It's mad. The more you push, like, the more they want to resist because they don't want to face it. And the more pressure you put on it, the scarier and scarier it gets. It's weird.
The elephant in the room for me, at least in the early days, has been because I feel like over the course of our job here, I feel like for whatever reason we started to get higher quality clients. I think it comes down to the Paul Jack thing, like the fucking higher your price, the better quality of clients that you get. But I used to find initially the reason people didn't want to weigh in because they literally weren't doing the work, and that was it. And so it was like, why do you not want to weigh in? Because I don't want to look at a bad result again. And I was like, I get that. I 100%. I wouldn't want to either. So like, when do you stop tracking your food? When it stops being good? When do you stop weighing in? When you know you've eaten shite? And so it's like, that's also another reason why you don't like weighing in, because you need nutrition skills. So obviously, the focus for the short to medium term shouldn't be weighing in. That's not what you need to work on. You need to work on your nutrition and your activity levels, because the weighing in is only going to work and be a positive benefit to you if we're tracking you moving in the right direction and starting to interpret, okay, yes, even though the weight is up, generally you're moving in a good direction, you're on a good journey, high five, good. Okay, it's up today, but here's probably why. It's any one of these 4 reasons, stay on the path. But for people who are on the path, it's like, well, why aren't you on the path? Well, because I'm really struggling. Well, why are we struggling? Well, you're struggling because you don't have the skills, maybe things at home aren't going well, maybe you don't have that much discipline for whatever reason, it could be any number of reasons, but like the work's not this big thing.
That's what I think is so invaluable about it, though, because if you do keep weighing in, and you're like, if they were to just like have someone where they could talk to, where it could just be like, look, I haven't been doing the work, I haven't, and it's like then you can genuinely and honestly ask why. If you can let them like save face and let them be like, okay, I haven't done, like, why? I've been bloody struggling with school. I haven't been doing a good job in school. I'm really stressed about my exams, my tests, whatever it is. It's like, okay, well, now we can actually come up with an actual tangible plan to work around that, rather than just accepting the fact that school's hard and that you don't want to do it. Like, one of my frustrations is like, someone's like, oh, work's real busy right now, I just can't focus on it. And there's two ways to approach that. One is like, okay, that's fine. That's absolutely fine. Understand, that's your number one priority. And maybe that's the right answer as well. But what I would say is like you're always going to be busy. We need to figure out a way to do this while we're busy. Like, convenience is something that you need to factor in. Like, not everyone has time to like go home for lunch and make fucking salad like fresh. Not everyone has that time. So you need to be able to do whatever you can. Or the alternative is that you're going to get fat and it's going to get worse because you're not prioritizing this thing. And in fact, you're deprioritizing it over something else. And to facilitate this thing that's really, really important to you, you're sacrificing your health. And then when your coach comes to you and is basically going like, here's what you're doing, it's not good for you in the long run, you don't want to look at it. And you're going to be like, no, because that reality is not a good reality to live in. Yeah. And the only way to do it is basically like show them. But if they don't willingly confront it, there's not much you can really do.
Yeah. Then 100%. And then so with the, just kind of bring it back to because obviously you kind of talk a lot about weigh-ins and stuff, like to bring it back to then the progress photos. I also think then it gives people unrealistic expectations of the success rate of other clients and what's actually realistic. Because again, we all know, even from being coaches, it's very hard to have 100% success rate in any program. We do a much, much better job than anybody else in making people actually show up. At least 85% of our members actually show up on a week-to-week basis. But online, you're only seeing the top 10% of clients and their transformation journeys, and you're seeing them with fake tan, and you're seeing them in good enlightened, and you're seeing them on an empty stomach, and you're seeing them probably slightly dehydrated,
and flexing.
Yeah, and flexing with a pump on, with a pump. And again, this makes a big difference, and that's kind of for me where it becomes disingenuous, because it's almost like showing people essentially Photoshop.
Unless you want, because I've got a great pump and looked in the mirror and just thinking, fuck, I want to take a picture of this. I feel this is great for my confidence. This is great for my confidence. I feel great about myself.
And if that was the frame, that these were being promoted for, not saying, oh my God, take my 6-week challenge because these are the results you could get. If it was more like, oh my God, look how amazing my client looks after their workout or after completing this program, it's like, okay, but again, it's a before and after photo. It was just that photo taken, in isolation, and just saying, oh my God, how cool, how great does my client look fantastic. It's done with the thing, this was bad before, it's better now, and again, it's just creating that kind of unrealistic expectations. So I completely understand.
I would like a before photo, an after photo, and a badass photo. That's what I'd like. I'd feel like it's like, here's them standing neutral, and here's them pumped and shredded, looking amazing. That's
actually such a good idea. That's actually such a sick idea. That should be the new standard. Before, after, a badass. Yeah,
that's pretty cool. Okay, guys. Anything else? Any other insights in that you want to get off your mind before we end this podcast? I don't want to get stuck into our kind of talk on mate or trauma just yet, because I want to kind of give it the time it deserves. So we'll probably cover that next week. If anyone's listening, if you want to kind of do a little bit of reading before we get into the topic.
Well, that's what I would say. One thing, just maybe on the gamer mate thing, is just in general, like the answer to a lot of this mental health stuff, like this issue with people is like, right, well, why are you not doing well? Because like for me, I have generally two types of clients. I've got clients who follow the program on day one, and then people who really struggle to implement the plan at all. And so the people who struggle to implement the plan at all, the question is why, right? And the question is why. Is like, why are you not organized enough to just implement a simple diet plan? Why do you comfort eat? Why do you have all these kind of mental barriers in the way, and all this baggage weighing you down? Like that work gets in the way, and you just haven't got any good stress management plans in place. When it all goes to shit, you just have to eat your feelings. When it comes the weekend, you need a break and you just need to switch off. And it's like these are learned behavioral patterns that we developed growing up, and starting to go deeper into why they are. So it's one of my favorite Jim Rohn quotes. I've said it again and again: is learn to work harder on yourself than you do in your job. And I always relate that to fitness. Learn to work harder on yourself than you do in your diet. Learn to work harder on yourself than you do in your fitness. If you really heal whatever is going on under the surface, well, then you'll probably find that everything, your ability to implement any plan or any strategy, any skill, because you're healthier mentally, well then. And that's kind of what gamer mate is all. That's why I love the psychology element of trauma, and I love the just psychology in general, because it's so important to figure out what makes you tick. Why are you doing what you're doing? Because 9 times out of 10 we can feel helpless to our own behavior, and I feel like that's a really important thing to get on top of.
Yeah, that sounds cool. And again, so if you're interested, guys, we'll definitely cover that topic next week. Any questions or anything you want us to cover, if you have read the books or anything. What is the book you're reading at the minute, guys?
There's 3. So there's Scattered Minds. Then there's The Myth of Normal, and then what's the other one? Ghosts, Hungry Ghosts.
The Realm of Hungry Ghosts. I haven't listened to that one yet. I've listened to Scattered Minds, which is a book on ADHD and what it is and what causes it. And then there's another one, The Myth of Normal, and that's a really, really cool book, because it seems to be one of these books that starts, at pregnancy in terms of human development, and I'm only about halfway through it, and it seemed to go through child development, probably into teens and then into adults, which is really interesting. So it covers all spectrums for something for everybody in terms of development and trauma. And then the other one, The Realm of Hungry Ghosts, that is about addiction, which again, obviously, obesity in part is maybe some form of food addiction, or maybe alcohol and all that kind of stuff. So definitely, definitely
self-soothing
for fat loss.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Sounds interesting. Looking forward to that conversation, guys. I will be taking that one live from Portugal. Will I be in our new? No, I won't be in there. I won't be in the penthouse. But again, I'll be taking that one live from Portugal. So looking forward to that, Chris. Hopefully, myself and yourself will have a chat later on about getting you over to Portugal with us. Again, commiserations on the fight, but like I said, I'm proud of you anyway. As I said in the message that I sent you, the value is in stepping into the ring and coming into the process. You've done the training, you put in the hours, you stepped in through the ropes, and that makes you a champion in my book.
Appreciate it, bro.
Not only that, you were winning. Like you did.
And I got into the best shape of my entire life.
Well. Yeah, this is what I'm saying. You're in your best shape. And again, just to finish off, one last point on the whole before and after photos. If people just knew how good it felt, because obviously I've been there made weight and kind of standing there on the scales, lean as a bean and feeling fantastic. my confidence has never been higher than in them moments.
That's
and again,
that's one of the things.
I'm not sure if that's toxic and related to my trauma or what it is, but again, in them moments, and again, I've seen it again and again and again with clients, when you're in the shape of your life, when you're in peak physical condition, it has a massive impact on your mental health, how you feel about yourself and your self-confidence. And that should also not be overlooked. Because people, everything to do with that article, it's all coming from the angle of, helping people feel better about themselves. And kind of my experience and my point of view would be like, well, listen, don't knock it till you've tried it. Until you've got yourself in amazing shape, there's very, very few things in life that will make you feel as good as that.
Sorry, one thing I would say, and David Goggins is massive on this, is that the confidence for me anyway, it comes from, it's not how you look. That's part of what it is. Obviously, again, like we've all got this, it's like, this is what the peak person looks like. It comes from, I've done the work. I actually believe in myself because I know I did the work. And to me, the way I like to say it is keeping the promises you made to yourself. That's what self-confidence is. Confidence is self-confidence. Can I trust myself? So when you make promises to yourself, do you follow through or do you let yourself down? That's essentially to me what self-confidence is. I felt like I rushed and bluffed my way to many wins and was as lean as ever. But like, again, I knew the corners I cut, and that made me feel like a fraud. And I did it 2 or 3 years in a row and did not get the result and was not disappointed at all, because I knew right well for a change. I was like, I did everything in my power to get as far as I could, and I'll do the same again. And that's a completely different feeling.
Yeah. And Chris, last point.
Well, I was going to bring up, I'm sure most people are aware of Andrew Tate at the moment. He was banned and all that jazz. He was on Piers Morgan recently. One of the things he's on about with depression, and you're on about saying it there with self-esteem, he was like, look, like before you do anything drastic, whatever it is, okay, like because you're about to, he's one of the people who are going to basically unalive themselves. He was basically like, go get a 6-pack first and then think about it. And he's like, do that first.
I actually heard that story. That is very interesting. I do agree with that on a level, like,
Also, just on that, in that conversation, I remember he was talking to Pierce and he said, like, there's no, like, clinical depression isn't a thing, like, or is a thing. It's 100% a thing. And for you to say it's not, it's like, it's completely damaging. He was saying, well, I find it's damaging that you can even say that it's like, they take that power away from people. And in the Gaber Mate books, they literally talk about, there is no evidence for psychological issues like that. Now, obviously, again, listen to the book. There's doctors that said it. It's not me. It's not just my opinion. They said there is no evidence for that psychological statement at all. Like, it is not. Like, it's very hard to measure. They were like, give us like 5-10 years. We'll have the figures. It's like, there's none. There's literally none. It's all
for depression.
Well, exactly, yeah. To say for these psychological diseases, like there's actually like.
Again, how do you measure these things? Like we don't have the tools to measure these things. It's all, a lot of it is very subjective.
That's why we want to talk about this next week.
Yeah, very very subjective, based on how people feel. And I feel like once you know the placebo effect, I feel like you can't get away from all that matters is the person's belief. You know what I mean? Like, again, I could give you a sugar pill. I could tell you this is the cure for cancer, and there is, records of people curing themselves from serious illnesses and doing absolutely amazing things, miracles, just through their belief alone. So I feel like
that matters.
I feel like telling somebody they're clinically depressed and that they can't heal themselves is, if for want of a better word, cursing them with an identity that they cannot fix. It's outside of their control. So
that's very damaging.
So it's going to be quite an interesting conversation next week. So
can't wait.
Yeah. So guys, So guys, thanks for listening. Really appreciate your time. Any comments, any feedback, please let us know. Remember, everything we expressed here is just our amateur opinions on these topics that we are by no means experts in. We appreciate you taking the time to listen to us, and we hope to see you in the next one.
Peace.
Peace.